first of all, like, look at us.
Look at us. Ah! I can't believe it.
Who would have known?
I mean, thinking back to those first days, all like plucky and meaning well and earnest and trying to learn. And here we are now.
I know. So let me take you guys back a little bit. Robin and I worked at a functional medicine practice together. I was a health coach. I was the first health coach that they had ever hired.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really, I always say it was the place that I learned that I didn't know a lot. I got really comfortable saying, I don't understand that, or I don't know the answer to that. And you were practicing medicine, right?
But I was the third doctor in that practice, and I was straight out of training, and I basically begged them to hire me. Not basically, I did beg them to hire me because I had so much to learn in functional medicine. Like I was coming out of training in internal medicine, and I spent months just like shadowing and taking notes before I think they let me see a patient.
Right.
And you were there and I was there and we were new and we were just like trying to absorb, I think, everything that we possibly could.
Everything.
And we would look at each other and be like, hey.
I know. I feel like we always had the same kind of like, oh, I don't know that I get this, at least for me.
But it was awesome because it was one of the first functional medicine practices, I think, that had health coaching and that really invested in it as a field and understood the power of it and the importance of it in a medical setting. And so that was really inspiring for me in starting Parsley because I knew that health coaching had to be a really big part of what we did.
That's awesome.
So there you go. So thanks for the inspo.
I mean, if I'm giving you any inspiration, I will take it and run with it.
You are. Promise.
Thank you. I mean, please. I feel like even thinking back to those days, I mean, I think we're always figuring it out, but I was really like, I had no idea. It was something I enjoyed, but I always felt there was something missing for me where I had no idea what it was at that point, seeing clients. I loved it. And it's what really helped me to understand what people want, what they need, what they're almost looking for when they're turning to healthcare or a health coach. And it was a massive foundation for me in understanding people, really. But also, like, I'm even thinking back to when we both left and we met up and we had talked about me possibly working as a health coach, but I was like, it's not, there's something else.
Yeah.
I'm on this quest of kind of discovering what it was. And I think my question for you is, even in that point of like shadowing and really learning everything from the ground up, did you always have this like internal feeling of knowing that you wanted to create something like Parsley?
I think if I'm really honest with myself, I did, even though at that point I wouldn't have admitted it. And I wouldn't have been able to articulate what that was or what it was going to be. And I think what I knew at that moment in time, which I feel like you sort of knew for yourself too, it sounds like, is that we needed the foundational training. We needed to see patients and work with sick people and understand all of those dynamics and just get that foundation in. And then what that would ultimately be for was sort of a work in progress or an exploration. But I had started one digital health company when I was still in med school and residency. So I had a little bit of startup experience before I was even practicing in that setting. And so having started one company, having built something for healthcare and for medicine, it's still around. This company is still around. I can't believe it. They're doing great. It's an app that helps doctors communicate in hospital settings and share data and helps them with clinical decision-making. And I created that with somebody from my med school class in med school and then into residency. And so I had sort of been bit by this bug, which was somewhat of a problematic bug, which is the bug of, oh, I see this like big, glaring, massive, insurmountable, systemic, nationwide, global problem. Maybe I can fix it. Or maybe I can build something for that. And so I think that, when I met you, I think we were both just like, get in the foundation. But that foundation was sort of being built for something else for both of us. But we never could have predicted where we'd be sitting 10 years later,
No,
which is wild.
it is wild.
And we're both still in New York City, and we're both moms. And our kids may be going to the same school. So I feel like I have some sort of like universal like connection to you, that we were meant to meet all those years ago, and to like stay in this community and keep building together and keep learning from each other. And I mean, what you have done in the past few years, it's just like,
Mm,
it's wild.
thank
You
you.
should be so fucking proud. Am I allowed to
Thank you.
curse? Sorry.
Yes,
I just
you
cursed.
can do anything you want here.
Good.
Thank you. I'll really take that because it means so much to me coming from you. I've always looked up to you and just admired you for really going for it. I think, you meet so many people in life who have ideas and who want to do something, but to actually take action and move towards it and build it and execute it so incredibly the way that you have with Parsley Health it's a movement. It's phenomenal. And I am a proud Parsley member.
Yay!
So proud. I have to say, you've really created, it's interesting because we have this like universal tie that keeps coming back. And even on my walk here, I was thinking to myself, like, the beauty of having a podcast is having this time because we're so busy. We're all so busy and we're doing so many things. But to kind of come back here and just like reminisce and just look at it and like be with each other and just to talk about this is something I do not for 1 second take for granted. I love it. This is what really fuels me. It's something I've discovered, but to, you know, I knew I always wanted to create something that was accessible because I always thought back to the younger version of myself who grew up really poor. And, the first second I had enough money to do something for myself, I bought a gym membership. And I was just always looking. And that was really expensive even back then. So I always think about, the person who feels like there is no other way and to pave a way. And I know that is what you have done with Parsley is creating this holistic health that is accessible for people. And I want to really dive in on and just to understand more about where your mindset was and making this something that was really attainable and accessible for all.
That really was it. That was my motivation. I was so fortunate to go to medical school at Columbia and train in internal medicine at Mount Sinai. So I had this incredible foundational uh, training in medicine that I knew was critical. But I also went to medical school already interested in nutrition and yoga and integrative medicine and functional medicine, which is something I actually had met. Dr. Mark Hyman, who's one of the leaders in functional medicine, now a friend, but that time I just met him randomly and through other work, and became aware of functional medicine, which is this field that was focused on how do we find and treat the root cause. Your high blood sugar is generally not high because you have a deficiency in a blood sugar medication. Your blood sugar is high for a reason, right? And generally that's diet and lifestyle. Now, there are also other reasons and other diseases that you can have. But there's always a root cause. And even at my training at Columbia and Mount Sinai, I wasn't trained to think root cause. I was trained to manage a condition, not figure out why somebody had the condition. And so I was really fortunate to go to training, but already have these inklings of maybe there's a more, whatever you want to call it, integrative, holistic, functional way of approaching medicine. And I was really fortunate after Mount Sinai to train, in the practice where we met and with some of the top functional medicine doctors in the country and to observe that world. I also had the crazy experience I mentioned earlier where I co-founded a digital health company in medical school and into residency. So I had like a little bit of startup experience, a little bit of tech experience. And all of those things, I just genuinely believe in life that every experience is valuable. No experience is wasted. Every single thing that you do or learn or the people that you meet is adding up and amalgamating into this perfect school of life for you that's coming together so that you can go off and do whatever it is that you're supposed to do. And when I look back on my trajectory and all these seemingly random things that happened along the way that weren't random, that have all been utilized and have been like inputs into who I am and what I stand for, all of that came together. The functional medicine, the Columbia Med School, the digital health company, the consulting in healthcare and health tech for a bit, all added up to this perspective that the world needs a doctor that is trained to find and treat the root cause. And if we do that, so many people will be healthier, we'll save trillions of dollars. It's just the way medicine should be. And yet what I saw out in the market was a type of medicine that wasn't as accessible or approachable as it could have been. And so decided to create Parsley Health because my mission was to say, well, let's make this medicine available to everybody. And I know that's going to be a big old journey, but that's the purpose of it. It's not about me. It doesn't have my name on it. It's about this mission to make something that everyone can ultimately experience.
How did you come up with the name? I don't know that I
Everyone
asked you this before.
Okay, love the story. So I wanted something that felt bright and fresh and clean and memorable and had good mouthfeel, which is a weird thing to say out loud, but you know what I'm talking about. And I wanted it to be it could sound like a healthcare company or a tech company. And I was on a plane and I was reading Fast Company and I wrote down all these names. And then I went and had drinks one night with my best friend from growing up. And she is like my friend who knows who celebrities are and People magazine and knows what pop culture stuff. And I like live under a rock legitimately. And so I read her names out loud and I named Parsley Health. And she goes, Parsley Health, I like that. And I thought, well, if she likes it, then the world will too. And so I named the company and then it just stuck. So here we are.
That's so great.
Yeah, literally.
Shout out to the friend too.
Yes, shout out to the friend. She's an incredible jewelry designer. Brent Neal, look her up.
Amazing.
But that was how.
That's so cool. Now, you, on top of being the founder of Parsley, I'm so curious with this because I know when you first opened your practice and you have 2 physical locations and everything is online, correct?
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yep, 50 state, online. Most of our members are totally online, but we do have clinics in New York and LA. And so some people come in person, those.
Yeah. When you first started, you were seeing patients.
Yes. I still see patients.
You still see patients?
Yeah. What's today? Is today Wednesday? I'm seeing patients tomorrow morning.
Oh my God, I didn't know this.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, that's incredible.
Yeah. At Parsley, obviously.
So can you walk me through, I think, because it's your baby, right? It's like, this is something that you created. It's interesting because it is hard to just like walk away from it, right? Because it's a part of you. So how you decided to expand, bringing in other doctors, and I think going from, what am I trying to get at, Melissa? Really just being the person, right? Where it's like, you started this, you see patients, and the willingness to open it up for other doctors to practice.
Yeah. So I always am clear that I started Parsley Health to be a business that scaled. And I never designed it from day one as Robin's personal medical practice. And it wasn't like I created a personal medical practice and then later decided to try to grow it. And I get that question actually all the time, like at conferences and other things from other, doctors and health coaches and providers. And I always want to be clear, I had started one company. I built a P&L, which is a profit and loss spreadsheet. And I said, how do we make this something that can reach a lot of people? And I never wanted it to be about me. Like it never had my name as the name, et cetera. And so everything I did from day one, even though originally in the first iteration, I call it like my beta year and a half, it was me. I was the doctor and legal and ops and marketing.
Sounds familiar.
And tech. And, I didn't take a salary for over a year and a half. Shout out to my husband who supported us in that time. We had way fewer expenses then, I want to say. Didn't have all the kids and the dogs. Yet. No kids, no dogs, just us. But nonetheless, I took a really big risk. But I said, how do we set this up in a way that can scale, can be operationalized to scale, can be more accessible from a price point standpoint? And it was always meant to not just be me. But I did spend about a year and a half totally bootstrapping, no outside funding, just figuring it out. And I think that that time was so, so, so valuable. It was me, two part-time health coaches, one of whom is now our director of health coaching and runs
Wow.
coaching at Parsley. She's been with me for 7 years
That's incredible.
from before Parsley was Parsley. And like an office manager. It was the four of us and only two of us were full-time. That's how little it was. But I told them when they joined, I remember being like, y'all, I can pay your salaries for maybe the next 90 days. And from here, and I'm just going to figure it out. Like I had enough money to like pay rent on the office, get things started, like literal bootstrapping. But I think that going through all of that made me just smarter and made me really understand the model so much better because I didn't have an idea and then go out and raise money for it and then try to figure it out from there. I had to really sort of build and be everything from the beginning. And I feel like, I mean, I'm looking in from the outside, so I don't know, but it's like for you, actually, I have this memory of talking to you that I love years ago. And I remember you had sent me, it was some other company's fitness app. And you had done a couple workouts for them.
Okay.
This is like before Melissa Wood Health was Melissa Wood Health, people. I'm just going to take it back. I have this vivid memory. I was upstate in our like tiny little house, no kids at the time. And I have you on my phone through this app that I download. And you were like, let me know what you think of it. And I'm like doing your workout on the living room floor. And I remember saying to you, I don't think you need them.
You did.
I really remember saying that, but you did all the things. You did all the homegrown things. And then brick by brick, bit by bit, you built it up yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So same thing.
No, I mean, everything you're saying, I'm like, oh, wow. Like I've been everything. And I think that's why I understand it I mean, look, I never went to school for marketing or for tech or for any of these things, but it is like when you're really in it, at least for me, I'm such a hands-on learner. Like I have to get my hands in there. I'm able to really step back and understand it from like such a deeper perspective. But no, at that time, I fully remember you saying that to me and I wasn't ready because I was like, no, I need them. I was comfortable. It was like I didn't have to do all the back end work, which is where the true learnings came in for me, being able to understand, all right, well, when your site crashes, things go south and what do we do? And it's.
But you had that experience and you got your reps in, right? And I think we both did. And I did when Parsley was bootstrapped and little. And then I still look back at our Series A in 2018 and I'm like, I didn't have a finance lead and like a VC fund put in $10 million. And I look back and I'm like, how did anyone give me $10 million? Quickly hired a VP of finance at the time to be like, help. But, I think that those inklings of that vision, back to your original question, I had it from the beginning. I designed Parsley to be something that could be much bigger than me, scalable. And the whole goal of it from the get-go was to say, all right, we're going to bring the price point down to something much more approachable than this, again, call it functional medicine, integrative medicine, whatever you want to call it, has been. We're going to build an infrastructure around that through technology and operations. We're going to build a brand. Being a brand is about, as you know better than anyone, education and conversation and authenticity. And so we're going to do all that. And we're going to start in the self-pay or cash pay market because I knew at the time I'd done enough consulting in healthcare that the healthcare system wasn't ready for us. I also knew that it would be ready for us once we had really great data and outcomes data showing that this kind of care really worked. And my biggest issue with what I'd seen out in the market is there was a lot of private practices, but none of them were standardizing care. None of them were, tracking outcomes data. And every provider was sort of, in some ways, doing his or her own thing or variant. And I just knew that none of that was going to fly if we wanted this to be part of our regular healthcare system. Like my view is you shouldn't have to see a primary care doctor and then also go find out of pocket your functional trained doctor. Like, you should have both in one. And so I said, all right, well, we're going to start in the cash pay world. We're going to be way more accessible than anything out there, but we're still going to be cash pay. So it's not going to be accessible to everybody day one. And that's okay, because you got to start somewhere and you can't let perfect be the enemy of good. And I knew that if we got the outcomes data, then eventually we'd be able to start working with health plans and employers and hospital systems. And so that was always the vision, but it's freaking healthcare. And so everything takes for freaking ever. And it's slow, and you need tens of thousands of people in your data set, and you have to hire actuarial firms, which is a word that I can barely pronounce, but now I say it probably 17 times a day, to do these analyses that are validated and legit. And we did all of that work. And so that has led us to have over 10 million people in network for Parsley. We are working with huge pharmacies like CVS. We are working with some of the biggest fertility benefits companies in the country like Progeny. We are working with huge self-insured employers. And I had this like crazy moment the other day where we launched, I'm not allowed to say the name of the employer, but with this huge employer that's in 50 states, and they do like food service delivery, like trucks and food service, like industrial food service for cafeterias and things like that. And we enrolled our first patient from this company. And this is a population of worker that would rarely have access, if never have access to this kind of medicine. And I just had one of these moments where I was like, fuck, my work is done. Like, it's not done and there's so much more to do, but we got it here from those, bootstrap days of like literally being the marketing and putting everything on social media myself. And so it was just really gratifying.
It's incredible. It really is.
And now there's like 2 decades more of work to do, and it never freaking ends.
I mean, can we just talk about that there is no finish line?
No, none.
There
Zero.
really isn't. And I used to think there was. I used to vividly be like, well, it's almost like it brings me back to like when I was seeing health coaching clients, and everyone would come in and they wanted one thing from me. They wanted me to write them a diet plan. Right? Because like that's going to fix every single thing. That's what a lot of us think. And then you start chipping away, right? And it's like, well, how do you feel when you wake up? And what's the first thing that you do? And are you fulfilled by your work? And how's your relationship? And you start to like really dive in and start to just peel back the layers, that it's so much bigger than that one thing that you think it is, right? And that it's this constant uncovering and really just getting to the root cause of endless things in your life. I think for me, it's like I think about the load on your shoulders, and I didn't even realize that you're still seeing patients, which is just amazing. And I love that. But also running the business, right? And making sure your children are happy. And she has 3 children, you guys, wife, mother. How do you manage it all? Give us. Now we're going to dive in.
Same question back to you.
I want all the things. And I know you do the work, but
I think what you just said is it. It's doing the work, right? And there is no finish line. And realizing that too, because I was always a finish line driven person. And I think, as someone spent a lot of time in school, you just get to the test or the end of the semester or the deliverable and it's sort of over. But as we both know, life and parenthood and relationship and business isn't like that. There is no finish line. It's always changing. The demands are always new. And so then what do you have as your center, as your core that keeps you sane, that keeps you able to keep going? And that has to be with you. And so for me, that's always been, I eat the plant-based paleo, gluten-free, dairy-free, low sugar, but not perfect.
mm-hmm.
Definitely ate one of those mochi rice dessert things yesterday in like a blind moment of not knowing. I was so hungry. I was like, just gonna eat it. But, not perfect. But again, back to not letting perfect be the enemy of good. But when I eat well, I'm not inflamed. I don't have brain fog. I don't have acne. I feel good. Yoga, as you probably remember from our work days together, I'm like a deep yoga nerd.
Deep yogi.
And I thought of you last night because I haven't been practicing much. Exercise has been the thing for me that has like really fallen off. I travel a lot for work, and just between we know as moms, like between the kids and the job and whatever, it's like maybe you can get a healthy meal in, but for me, like finding an hour to do anything or half an hour even is so hard. And my husband was out to dinner last night, and I was like, yes. And I like rolled out my mat, and I was like happy as a clam, and I felt so good. And I have that realization that I have any time I do one of your workouts or a yoga class, which is like, why I always feel so good. Like, why don't I just do this all the time? But I look at yoga or eating well or meditation, which is a really big practice for me. And I have a few others. Those are the big three. Those are like tools in my toolkit. And they're just how I get back on track, because I look at it as just this constant process of falling off, getting on track, feeling overwhelmed, feeling too tired, too much travel, too much work, too much kids, whatever the thing is. And then being like, oh, this is a thing that brings me back. Constantly.
I mean, I just visualize it. I mean, I say it every single day. Like you can start again in any moment. Like whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed or outside of myself, it's the things. It's like those, I mean, we have the same like 3 pillars that it's like, that's how this is all here. And how I'm able to like be here fully present with you is from getting myself, and I think it's the flexibility approach that I find has really helped me to like breathe deeper these days. Like I always say strive, because it's not like, well, I have to, or I do wake up before the kids. I've been really tired. I've been feeling super exhausted, and knowing that my body is telling me I need more sleep, right? Like what's the most important thing most people need when they come see you? Probably what they need to sleep more, they need to drink more water.
Drink more water, sleep. I mean, sleep is a big one. I always say like if they or if she is, a lot of our patients are women, 80% of our members are women, if she's not sleeping, like we can't fix anything else. And so sometimes we have to start there before we prescribe a drug, before we order a test, before we're trying to change the food or whatever it is we're trying to do. Start with sleep, because so few people, even if they're getting the hours, they're not getting quality sleep. They're looking at screens or social media before bed. They've got underlying inflammation that's messing with their sleep. They're staying up too late and having weird cortisol hormone patterns in their sleep. There's so many factors, but when you fix that, it's like a positive domino effect. Like other things start falling into place. Digestion falls into place. Metabolism starts falling into place. Chronic sleep deprivation can mask as depression and anxiety. So for a lot of people, they're feeling, constant low-grade anxiety and depression is because they're freaking tired. And you see it in your kids, right? Like when my kids are tired, why is the baby screaming right now? He needs to go to bed.
Right.
Right? And
when they start acting out.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, what is wrong? And you're
what is
like,
wrong with you? You're like, you need to sleep.
They need to sleep.
Yeah. So we have that too. We don't grow out of that ever. We just push ourselves through it, and we use coffee and other substances and other points of stimulation to get through it. But it's really cumulative, and it's a huge problem. So yes, sounds like you need to sleep more.
I do. I need to sleep more. I've been like my sleep hygiene right now. That is what my focus is. I haven't even gone on social media today. Like that's very rare for me. Like I haven't posted a story.
Wow.
Which is what I do.
Yeah.
It's like I post all the time and I love it. But I just like today I was like, wow, I am feeling it. I'm feeling it all kind of just come down, and I'm like, I know what to do, right? I went to bed last night at 9. I slept until 7, that's a lot of sleep for me. That's a lot of sleep for anyone, really.
Yeah.
But I was like, I need to. And then I found that pocket to get the meditation in and move my body. But it's the coming back.
But you're listening to yourself. And I think that we as a society have trained ourselves, especially women who experience 1 in 5 experiences gaslighting in the healthcare system. Over 50% say they felt dismissed or unheard in the healthcare system. Outside of the healthcare system, we all have sort of trained ourselves to just ignore how we're feeling. And a lot of us are at this baseline, low grade, not great that we're ignoring. We're telling ourselves that the headaches and the bloating and the joint pain and the rashes and the weight gain and the insomnia are normal. And I see it over and over again in our practice, people who are living in this way. And when we start to unwind that, and you're right, it's never one thing and it's never just the diet plan. There's often a lot going on, but you can start with one thing. You don't have to start with all the things. You can start with any of those things, whether it's sleep or food or meditation or moving or just walking.
Where do you tell people to start usually?
It's totally personalized because it depends on what's accessible and approachable for them. It depends on kind of where they're going to get the most bang for their effort buck. I have in the book I wrote, which is called Prescription for Happiness, which is all about how our mental health for a lot of us begins in the physical body, and how as a society we've kind of discounted the impact that the physical has on the mental. So from sleep to nutrient deficiencies to underlying conditions like autoimmune and high blood sugar, to the way we eat, food sensitivities, to lack of exercise. The body is designed to process emotions through movement, which is why your platform is so important for mental health. So all of these things are really critical, but some are more critical for people than others at different times. And so in the book, there's a self-assessment you can do, which is basically like, how much am I self-sabotaging my own mental health? And we walk you through sort of gauging around food, around sleep, around movement, around substances, right? Which I know you talk about a lot. Yes. Alcohol and other substance, I call it misuse, can be really problematic for people when it comes to their mental health. And so we walk you through a little kind of self-quiz, very easy, takes 2 minutes, to figure out like, okay, which of these things probably is the biggest problem for me? And what I find over and over again with patients is that they tell me where the root cause is. But most of us don't take the time to sit down with a doctor for an hour or to do 30 minutes of self-reflection to say, what is going on with me, to listen. So you're listening to yourself. You're like, I'm tired. I need to sleep more. I need to go to bed at 9. I need to get off social media for this morning or whatever. And a lot of people just aren't even listening to themselves. And so if I like leave everyone with one message, it's just to take a beat and hear yourself. Do a self-assessment in the book or just for on your own to say like, where am I probably impacting myself the most? And that is often the right place to start.
I'm going to take it.
Good.
I can't wait to take it. I will. I've been in a big assessment phase, like just place. I don't want to say phase because I think it's always important to come back and kind of check in with yourself. I always get discouraged by like quizzes or like, answer all these questions. But I will say when you take the time to actually do it, it gives you that moment to be like, oh, wait a minute. Yep. Like, I think we're always looking outside of ourselves.
Yep. And I loved when you wrote and said, I want to sign up for Parsley. And I was like, great. And you're like, I want to get some lab work. I want to sign up for Parsley. I'm like, great. And I thought that was I actually wanted to bring that up in our conversation today because people probably look at you and say, well, she knows everything about nutrition and she knows how to meditate and she knows how to move and like, look at her life. It's so amazing. You cannot be your own doctor. I can't be my own doctor. No. And so to have the self-awareness that, yes, I have all this information and yes, I'm putting it into my life day in and day out in a really beautiful way, but also like I need blood work and I need someone else who's trained to put the pieces together to help guide me to get to wherever I'm trying to go. I mean, that's awesome. And I think it's so important for people. We all kind of avoid medical care to some degree, right? Like it's not a cruise in Tahiti, it's freaking medical care. Like, like when we're working with these employers and the heads of HR and benefits will be like, well, it's just like, everyone going to sign up tomorrow? This sounds so great. And I'm like, well, it's medical care. Like, it's still not like a free vacation. Like, you still have to interact, whatever. We've tried to make it as beautiful and comfortable and amazing as possible.
It
But
is.
we can't be our own doctors. There are certain things we can't be. And so to get that support in whatever area is, I think, just important for all of us.
Oh my God, it is. I swear I like gasped when you said that because I feel like so many people will look to me or even, to you or people in the wellness space and feel as if everything's perfect or like everything's really good. And I, I think with me even reaching out, it was this real discovery of like, I wasn't feeling 100%. And is there an imbalance in my hormones? I felt like as soon as I turned 40, things just felt different. I was craving different things. I completely, you know, tried on different foods. I was just in search of like what is the thing, and I am someone who leans on myself for everything. It's like it like makes me emotional. I don't know why, but I think we always think we like have to figure it out. We have to find the answers, and there is so much power in that ask and just being okay with like I need help,
Yeah.
you know?
Especially as women. Women are the chief medical officers of our homes and families. We make 80% of healthcare decisions for the country. 80% of healthcare spend is led by women, and we're always taking care of everyone else. Like we make sure our kids get to the doctor, we make sure the parent gets to the doctor. And that 40 thing, I'm 41. Women in our era are in the prime of our careers. We're often managing families. Sometimes we're managing, it's called the sandwich generation, right? We've got stuff that's starting to go on with parents for a lot of people, and it's completely overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like you just want to kind of like lie down and stare at the ceiling as I last
Yeah.
night I literally at
That
8
sounds
p.m. I was
great.
like, I'm gonna lie in bed for 10 minutes before I do this yoga class and just stare because the kids are in bed and my husband's not here and no one is bothering me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we're like conditioned to be the rock and sort of the epicenter of everything. And so then we feel like guilty or like we're messing up if we're asking for help.
I know.
And you're not.
No.
So thank you for
Thank
signing
you.
up.
Oh my God. It's really been incredible. Like, I mean, I was like raving to my team about my doctor. I have to give a shout out to Dr. Kina Katri. Am I saying it
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like, I think the thing that I walk away from every time I have an appointment is the ability for like, she really listens to me. And I feel like she really is getting to know me. Like, it's like
Mhm.
that time spent and understanding what, I think just makes that spike in my nervous system. And that's been a big thing that I've been working on is just regulating my nervous system because I've realized truly it's taken me all these years to be like, I've lived in fight or flight my entire life, which has been, there's been some positives there. It's helped me really focus on the things that I wanted to do. But on the flip side, it's like, it's going to catch up to you at some point, right? So learning to get myself into that parasympathetic nervous system. And that's
I'm
where
like,
the
you're speaking my
meditation and
language.
the movement. And when
Yeah.
you said, like, it's crazy whenever I'm feeling this or just overwhelmed, which is most days. Most days I do feel that way. I'm learning how to manage everything because, I think things grew quickly and it's like, okay, how am I going to show up as how I know I want to show up, but still feel really good kind of doing all the things? And there's a lot of things to do. And it's amazing. Every time after I like do a flow, I'm like, this is my medicine.
Yeah.
This is my
It's
medication.
medicine on the mat. It truly is. I mean, what you said about fight or flight, I talk about it a lot. I've written about it. Every one of us, most of us, many of us are living in emergency. And we say that, but we're running from the proverbial lion, even though the lion is our email or the text message or the ping or the work deadline or whatever it is. or the schedule that we've created but now are a slave to for our children, um, and all the things. And but people always don't understand that that is actually a physiologic state. So when you have a thought and then you have an emotional reaction to that thought, your thought could be, I'm really nervous to be on Melissa's podcast today because I'm, haven't done one of these in a while. Or, I just got this email and it's really, wow, that was not the news I wanted at work, or whatever that is.
Mhm.
You have a subconscious, you may not even think, I feel nervous, I feel scared, I feel angry, but you subconsciously feel that way. And in that split second, you trigger a neurochemical cascade throughout your entire body of hormones and neurotransmitters that takes on average 48 hours to clear.
Wow.
That's talking to all of your cells. That is revving up your fight or flight and slowing down your rest, digest, relax, and heal, which is what you said. Parasympathetic is our rest, digest, relax, and heal, and our sympathetic is our fight or flight. You're turning all that on. By turning that on, the two things can't be on at once. So therefore, you're shutting down, not completely, but you're slowing down your digestion. You're revving your heart rate. You're revving your blood sugar. You're revving your blood pressure. And all of that creates this cascade that lasts for days. And when that's happening 1,000 times a day or 100 times a day, you're basically living in your own sort of chemical soup of stress. And to your point, like, stress is valuable. Stress is how we learn. Stress is how we grow. We don't want to necessarily have a fully stress-free life, because stress is what cues us to change and grow. And we're all here to learn and grow, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't want to live in that all the time. And so then when we do, that sort of chemical soup, as it were, starts to impact our immune system, and then we don't pick off cancer cells. It messes with our blood sugar and our ability to manage our blood sugar, and it makes it harder to control. And then we end up with diabetes, right? And so it all contributes. So we sort of talk loosely, I think, in general about how the mind and the body interact. But I got really fascinated with all of this stuff because there's so much healing and medicine that happens with 1 hour of rest and staring at the ceiling, or meditation, or doing a flow with you, or doing my yoga class next to my bed, that actually isn't just about, I think, listen, we can't control our thoughts. And a lot of times our problems are not solved at the level of thought. We have to sort of be in using meditation and movement and some of these other practices to get into that parasympathetic state, so that the body has an opportunity to do the work that we don't need to do for it. It knows how to do.
Mm-hmm.
It knows how to rest. It knows how to digest. It knows how to relax. It knows how to heal. But if you're always in fight or flight, you're never in a state of any of those things. And so you can't possibly heal. And so bringing that into medicine has been such like a powerful thing. And we see it in our patients all the time, how bringing in that meditation, bringing in that movement allows them to find a state where their body can then do the work to heal the disease.
I mean, it saved my life. It like saves me from myself every single day. Truly.
Yeah.
Like I would love to know, for people who can dip low, like I always say, like I naturally have a tendency to dip low. People think I'm, the most positive, meditative person. I feel as if I really lean into my joy, but a lot of my feelings I'll internalize, which tend to drop me, right? I've learned a lot. I have a lot of things in my toolkit to get me out of that place. I know it's hard for you to prescribe or to share what supplements just anyone should take. Obviously, this is a personal thing, but are there some things that you would say, like, to add into your life, whether it's herbs or whatever it is, to enhance and uplift mood that you feel as if most people could benefit from?
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
definitely.
It's always hard with
all the disclaimers, and
There you
see
go.
your personal doctor for any recommendations, right?
She said it.
Some of the few things that I think are actually really foundational. So, and what I take and what I recommend, and that I see most people benefit from, if not everyone. I won't say everyone, but most people benefit from. Number one is a methylated B vitamin. So methylated B12, also called methylcobalamin, and methylated folate, so 5-MTHF. 5-MTHF. These are variants of your B vitamins that help your body make neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, which are some of our feel-good neurotransmitters. They also help your body process your hormones. They can be really essential for breaking down excess estrogen. So if people have mood symptoms about their menstrual cycles and so forth, they're important for energy. And a lot of people are deficient in them, or I want to be really clear as everything I'm talking about when it comes to supplements, there's a really big difference between deficient and optimal.
Okay.
So sometimes at Parsley, we'll use a supplement or a nutrient, let's call it, to fix a deficiency. You are low in magnesium, we must give you magnesium. Sometimes we use a nutrient like magnesium to create an optimal state, or we use it as a therapeutic tool. So I might prescribe another one of my favorite supplements, magnesium glycinate, which is a specific form of magnesium. Be careful out there, people. Mag citrate and mag oxide will make you poop. If you need that is great. Go get it.
I take that at night.
There you go. And then mag glycinate or mag threonate are better for sleep and relaxation. Mag glycinate for tight muscles as well. And so these forms of magnesium, we may recommend for you not because you're deficient in magnesium, although a lot of people in America are, because our food supply has been really depleted of magnesium. And magnesium is critical for literally 300 chemical reactions in the body that happen all day, every day. So being low in mag is not great. But we might recommend mag not because you're low, but because we're actually trying to help you sleep better and help you relax. I call it nature's Xanax.
It is.
Non-addictive.
I take it every day.
Yeah, take it all the time too. So our methylated B vitamins are nature's Xanax, which is our magnesium glycinate, are also vitamin D. So the vast majority of people are vitamin D deficient or vitamin D suboptimal. And vitamin D3, K2, I always like the two vitamins together. They're fat-soluble vitamins, but when you take the K with the D, vitamin K makes sure that the calcium that you absorb naturally when you take vitamin D goes into your bones, which is where it's supposed to go. So it's kind of a double plus. But the vitamin D is really critical, and vitamin D deficiency is important for a lot of things, including your immune system, your bone health, and your mental health. So adding in vitamin D3, K2, I usually recommend at least 2,000 units a day, which is kind of the standard amount. I usually recommend 5,000 because most people are so low. Very safe to take. If you are taking it for a long time, do go to your doctor and get tested for your levels. It's extremely rare to have too much. And then the other ones I really like are taking an omega-3 fatty acid. So a really high quality EPA, DHA fatty acid. The reason is, we're supposed to eat around, sorry to get all nerdy on you, but like a 1-to-4 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fats. And people have probably heard of omega-3 fats being good for the brain and good for the immune system. True. We need omega-6s too. Omega-6s are in things like our seed oils, grapeseed oil, rapeseed oil, canola oils, vegetable oils. The problem is, sunflower oils. The problem is that we get on average, a 24-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3, and we're supposed to get a 4-to-1. So the basic message there is that we eat way too many seed oils in this country, and we eat them in mostly processed foods and restaurant foods and packaged foods and fast foods. Best way to avoid them is just to cook your food at home and use olive oil, to be honest with you. But that's a problem for our moods and our brains because omega-6s actually make it harder for your brain to use the serotonin you have. And they can create inflammation in the body, and brain inflammation is also associated with anxiety and depression. So you'll notice the starter kit that I just talked about, the methylated Bs, the vitamin D3, the omega-3s, magnesium, all of them safe, all of them effective when taken with high quality brands. There's a lot of crapola on the shelves out there. So try to get it through a provider, a practitioner. We have them on Parsley's website. There's a lot of other places to get them as well. Get quality, people. But regardless, none of those things is an herb or a specific mood booster, yet all of them are essential. And I find I won't even start people on the ashwagandhas and the rhodiolas and the 5-HTPs, which are some of the herbals and supplements that people all hear about a lot. until we've taken care of those foundations, because sometimes the other stuff won't even work until we've corrected the foundational needs.
Mm. I think I'm missing a few things. I'm definitely gonna, yes. I'm like, I need to up the omegas.
I also wrote it in Prescription for Happiness. I actually wrote down everything I just said,
Okay,
the
perfect.
specific supplements to kind of start with and then graduate to if once you're ready. I also wrote down the specific test to ask for from your doctor. And so whether you come to see us at Parsley or you go see somebody else, all good, cool. Rip out this page from the book. With us, you don't need to rip it out, but if you're going to see a regular doctor, you might, or take a photo. And we really encourage people to ask for these certain tests. A lot of people are kind of living their lives waiting for the wheels to fall off the wagon. By the time autoimmune disease and heart health issues and blood sugar issues, like you physically feel them, we are kind of really late in the game. And so proactively testing with a doctor who knows you and is able to give you guidance around that information is really critical. And so we give you a list of tests to ask for around your thyroid and your nutrient levels and inflammation levels, all things that can be run through your insurance. Go to your regular Quest or LabCorp, or I don't have skin in the game in any of these labs, just go to one of them. And that is so critical. So many of us are walking around with things we don't know we have that are impacting our physical and mental health that we could find out about through a simple blood test. So also on a mission to correct that.
I have such a similar approach where like when I'm talking to people and they're like, oh, I haven't found like a movement practice. I'm like, there's so many. Like it's just about trying things on and connecting with what connects to you. And even hearing you say like, if it's not Parsley, like go find your people.
Yep.
That's like one of the biggest takeaways for me here. Okay, I know we have to wrap soon, but I feel like I would kick myself if I didn't just touch on, because I feel like everyone always wants to know food and like, what do you eat? And you said you focus mostly on like a plant-based paleo, not perfect, which I love that you said, diet. Can you share just a little bit around that and the why?
Yep. So I don't eat gluten and I rarely eat dairy, although I love my Parmesan cheese. So I make an exception and I make an exception for butter because both foods for me, they're not evil foods. They're not bad or good. For me, they give me breakouts, acne, eczema, and they are inflammatory for a lot of people. So if you haven't given it a whirl for 30 days to go off of both foods completely, it takes 21 days for your immune system to stop reacting to a food you ate today. So give it 30 days to get off of those foods, not because they're bad, not because they're evil, but because you may feel better and notice changes in your digestion, your skin, your joints, your mood, etc. when you don't eat them. That's the case for me. Really try not to eat like refined sugars, refined flours, processed stuff. Cook your food. Learn how to make basic meals. This will save your life. And it will make it so easy to cut out all the bad things because when you're cooking, you're generally cooking with the good things. And it's the processed packaged foods that are the worst. I'm not sober. I enjoy a great glass of natural wine with zero residual sugar or a mezcal here and there, but I can't drink more than like 2 nights a week. And for me, it's a huge sleep disruptor, a huge mood disruptor. It has to have a really limited place in my life. For me, I haven't found that it needs to be 0 at this point, but it also can't be on a daily or even majority of the week basis. And I do see a lot of people, oh, it was just one drink. And again, it's not a judgment. It's about give yourself the experience of not drinking for 3 weeks and see how you feel. Because for a lot of people, it's more, let's just say it's more disruptive than they realize. And I think life should be an experiment when it's around food. And so experiment with being sober for a month, experiment with being gluten-free, dairy-free for a month, or cutting out the processed foods. Those are really the big ones. I eat seafood and meat. I don't eat birds and pigs for more ethical reasons. Try not to participate. I try not to participate in what I think of as like the industrial farming complex because the animal lover in me that has 2 rescue dogs can't do it.
Right.
But all around that, I think whatever variant works for you, for me, it's mostly around like lean protein, healthy fats, healthy seafood, lots of vegetables, whole grains, and cooking more than I eat out. And that for me, it sounds like more work, but it actually just makes everything easier because yes, I go out to dinner and yes, I travel and I have to pick the least obnoxious thing at the airport, like newsstand,
Right.
which is raw if possible or roasted, unsalted nuts, people. Just grab a bag. That's your answer. It's the answer to the
That's
question every
always what I
time. Just grab
grab.
a couple bags of nuts and get on the plane and don't think, just do. So listen, you're going to go with it. But for me, those are the basics.
I love your approach. I really do. I mean, that's what moved me out of, I think, feeling like it had to be this one way, is looking at everything as an experiment. And that's also what led me to just, I don't say I'm sober. It just led me to living life with no alcohol because I realized how much it enhanced those anxious feelings for me. It made me feel more irritable and just moody as hell the next day. And it was just like, I literally was like, I'm taking a 30-day experiment. Let me just try this on. And it's been 3.5 years.
It's amazing.
Because I realized for my mental health, because I'm so sensitive and I have so many things on my plate, that it was the one thing, like eliminating it. I realized, wow, I'm so much better without it. So I love that.
I mean, the fastest way to realize it too is as a parent, there is nothing that will make you remember that fact faster than waking up at 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning with your 3 kids that you now have to entertain for the entire day.
Hungover.
And having an even lowest grade hangover from like your 2 glasses of wine and being like, F me. So for me, couple times a year when I unfortunately give myself that reminder, I'm like right back onto where I was before.
Yeah, but I also love that you drink and you have such a healthy relationship to it. I think it's so important for these generations. I mean, I want to say younger generations, but all generations, to have like a very mindful relationship with like what you're putting in your body.
Yes.
Food, people, thoughts, all of the things, all content, social media. I could talk to you literally for I say this a lot, but I really mean it because I only have guests on that I just want to dive so deeply into the depths of all things with. And Robin, I thank you so much for being here, for sharing so much valuable information and knowledge for people to just feel better. That's what it's all about.
Thank you for
Can I ask
inspiring
you
me.
3 quick rapid fire before we forget?
Popcorn,
Because
let's do it.
Okay. What's your biggest motivator?
My kids are my biggest motivator to live like a joyous, full life. And professionally, my biggest motivator is knowing how powerful this root cause medicine has been for me and for tens of thousands of people, and just making sure that it can be as available and accessible and approachable to as many people as possible.
What's your end-all, be-all self-care ritual? Yoga?
Perfect night. Yeah, yoga followed by Epsom salt bath, little meditation in the bath, in bed by 10 p.m. Mama happy.
Oh, sounds like a dream. That's like a dream night for me.
It's a dream night.
It is.
Yeah.
Because this podcast is called Move with Heart, I always love to hear from everyone. And what move with heart, like what does moving with your heart mean to you?
I think that move with heart for me, and I've had a reminder of this very recently, is moving through life and making decisions based on your values, based on the things that like really matter to you and are meaningful to you. And I actually was thinking about you. I know this is a popcorn moment, but recently, because I was in a phase where I felt really out of alignment with like my energy and my purpose and my why, and I was working so much and I was just starting to feel like, oh my God, I've entered the medical industrial complex and I can't get out. And I missed my wellness community like you and everybody else. And I was spending and am spending all my time, talking to health insurance companies, which is awesome, but a different world and a different mindset. And I had felt sort of out of step. And so I had a big reminder recently to kind of come back into alignment with myself. And you had talked about living with alignment. And to be honest with you, I didn't really know what you meant. And then I had this big reminder of it recently. And I think I'm back into alignment, back into moving with heart, which means to me, stepping through every day, reminded of my purpose and what I value and not being willing to compromise that.
So good. And just to me, what it's all about. I love that. I love you. Thank you so much. This means so much to me that you gave me your time.
Thank you for having me. It's awesome. So psyched for you.